Hi everyone, welcome to the 99th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziaks, and today I'm joined by communications professors Ashley Brandon and Dennis Höhne. Thank you both for
Hello.
being here.
Thanks for having
Of
us.
course, of course. I'd like to shout out episode 31 guest Chen for technical directing once again. So, on my show, I interview people, I get to know them better, and I'm excited to learn more about you guys and your career. So, how about you kick things off and just tell us a bit about yourselves?
About myself, I am from Germany originally, moved to the States in my early 20s, and now it's been almost another 20 years since I have taken root here. I'm a professor at Quinnipiac University in the Film, Television, and Media Arts department. I love making movies. Forte is cinematography and all the technical stuff, post-production, sound design, special effects. Yeah, that's the short gist of it.
Awesome. Where in Germany?
Berlin.
Awesome. Cool. How about you, Professor Brandon?
So I am originally from a small town in Northwest Ohio called Defiance, Ohio. What you said, where you lived and what else? How you got here? Okay.
Sure.
So I grew up in a small town, Defiance, Ohio. And I've been living in Connecticut and working here at Quinnipiac in the Film, Television, and Media Arts department for almost 7, maybe 8 years now. So it's been a little while. I came here straight from grad school. I was in grad school in Chicago. And my forte, if we're talking about fortes already, would definitely be directing, editing, sound design, and then, I work in narrative, but also documentaries.
Perfect. And that kind of lead us into like discussing your careers. Kind of what made you want to pursue a career in film academia?
So, for me personally, I think I don't really have a crazy film background or anything like that. However, when I lived for the first couple of months in the United States, I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different with my life, and I always was a very creative person. I did a lot of drawing. I did a lot of tricks of After Effects and Photoshop back in the day. And film always seemed to me very, very interesting. So I went to college for it and got my BFA in film specifically, and then kind of through that, I really started loving the art of filmmaking, and then started working professionally at agencies, production companies, etc. over years. And then in working together with people, especially people who are really creatively expressive, I really got to love how to work collaboratively with a lot of other individuals, especially on film projects or anything like that. And then over time, as my professional background grew, I found an opportunity to adjunct at Quinnipiac, and then through that, I was like, oh man, that's really fun, being able to work with young creative minds and make something come to life. And what better way to make that happen than film? And then through that, I kind of just found the love of working with young filmmakers and teaching too.
Awesome, Professor Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I knew when I was going to film school, I think it was my sophomore year or junior year, I was speaking with one of my film professors, and I always had really great film professors, who really inspired me, is one of the reasons that I'm teaching now, and I love doing it. But I had a conversation with a film professor just being like, how do you become a professor? Because your life looks awesome. You have your summers off, you make movies, the university wants you to make movies, and you get to talk about movies all day. So I knew right away that teaching was something I was really interested in. I just love, even in grad school, I was teaching classmates how to do things with editing, who maybe didn't know how to do that, and just the feeling it gave me of showing someone how to do something new. It's the same excitement that I have when I finish a movie, right? And I show it to an audience for the first time. So I've always loved helping people surprise themselves. I also think teaching comes in because I have a very athletic background, and it's a lot like coaching. And I grew up around a lot of coaches. My dad has been a coach my whole life. So that's kind of how I fell into, the teaching aspect of being a filmmaker. And I don't really even think of myself as like a professor, even though like that's like what a business card would say for me. I'm like more of like a filmmaker who like happens to teach. And I think in general, if you're a good filmmaker, like you're teaching people how to do things, whether it's on set or in the classroom or, online, anywhere. Yeah.
So like a filmmaking mentor, so to speak.
Or a coach. Yeah.
Coach.
Like, because I think, obviously teaching people how to do things is like important, right? But also inspiring them too. And and sometimes that means as professors, we don't have all the answers, right? Definitely in film, you don't have all the answers. Like the industry is changing so much. But enabling students to believe in themselves is huge. And that's what professors did for me, the good ones, which most of them were good. And I just wanted to do that for other people because that changed my life like tremendously.
Interesting. What sports did you used to play?
I mean, a little bit of everything. So volleyball, soccer, softball, basketball. So a little bit of everything. And then like more recently, I like got into like jujitsu. I just like being active.
Yeah. I'm sure it teaches you discipline, which is something you very much need in the film industry. So it's kind of like while you're still working, you're able to kind of inspire younger filmmakers and have them inspire you. So it kind of becomes like full circle. And that kind of leads us into what I want to ask you next, which is really like how your personal filmmaking experiences inform how you teach.
Yeah. So I think the best thing that you can learn from somebody or for someone is actually someone who has a lot of hours under their belt. It's almost like with any craft that's out there, whether it is like working like in the manual labor field, somebody who's working in HVAC, somebody who is like a carpenter. It's the same with filmmaking because it's a very hands-on manual labor field. And the best way to learn from somebody is from someone who is actually has experienced the grind and who's done a lot of the work. So over my years working professionally, I have kind of like been a jack of all trades. And what I personally gravitate towards, which is cinematography, sound design, and special effects and so on. A lot of that experience that I've garnered over time, because when I moved to the United States, I started fresh. I had no connections. I didn't know anybody, and my career was very much kind of like a result of manual labor. A lot of like my own efforts and own work that had to go into to where I am today, and that means something because that's not to say that people who have connections in the industry, good luck to them. That's really great if you happen to know somebody who works, but I did not. And a lot of the success that I might have had came through basically just self-starterism. And I think giving that to a lot of young filmmakers is extremely valuable because I am not sugarcoating anything. Oftentimes I know what it takes to be successful in certain fields and certain environments, and that really informs my way of teaching. It's not just like, hey, learn that specific item here, just learn this camera. No, you have to learn holistically a whole lot of other things. You have to be a very well-rounded individual. Nowadays, you cannot just kind of like hone in on just that one thing. Yes, you might want to be that director, but you also got to know how a camera works. You got to be able to communicate well. You have to know what a gaffer does. You have to know all of the little aspects that go into the production process, and to be able to not just understand it, but also be able to do some of those jobs. And that is pretty much what my background is. I kind of like did all of those little items here and there in all those jobs. And it kind of like got me to where I'm in today. So I think that is something that informs my teaching very much. And that's something I would like to give to the students as well.
Also, and Professor Brandon?
Because I don't really think of like teaching and filmmaking as separate things. So it's kind of hard for me to like, dissect the two individually and how they play off of one another. I think like what Dennis said, Professor Höhne said, is like aligns a lot with like my answer as well. I think, being on set or like working, and whether it's on a film, television, whatever, even like games, like game design, really what you're doing over and over is problem solving. Like as soon as you figure something out, something else is gonna like fail. So you need to problem solve. And I think that's the one thing that I really try to like take into the classroom, especially with the capstone projects, but really in all of the classes, is that like everything is going to go wrong, but you can handle it, especially if you prepare for it. Right. I've never been on a set, whether it's like a professional, like multi-million-dollar movie or like a small indie. I've never been on a set where everything went smoothly. Ever. Like on every film set you're on, someone will say, this is the worst set I've ever been on. And it's like, for that person, that might be true, but it never runs smoothly. And I think that's something that like a lot of like, especially film students don't understand. Like they kind of like will be working on a project and something goes wrong and like either they want to give up right away or two, they're like beating themselves up over it. And it's like, that's so unnecessary because like if you've been on a professional set, everything goes wrong. And you just get better at problem solving. You don't actually solve the problem, but you know how to fix it quicker next time. And I think that's something I really like to take into the classroom because I've had many things go wrong on my like film productions, whether it's like a camera issue or a scheduling issue, a producing issue, whatever. It's not about why is the issue happening. It's more about like, well, how do you like react from it? And I think that's just like an invaluable asset to being a good artist, creative, or filmmaker is like, all right, here are the circumstances. What are we going to do about it now?
Yeah. So just being adaptable, essentially, to pull a takeaway from all of your answers, and like the holistic approach you talk about, Professor Höhne, kind of will help with that. I expect to kind of understand all these departments. You can understand the problems, and kind of like what you mentioned, Professor Brandon, you're going to experience a bunch of problems that you might not be able to prepare for per se, but if you know what you're doing, you'll be able to handle them. Absolutely. I feel like that's kind of what I really draw from all of that. And to kind of take us into our next topic, I'd like to ask you, what qualities do you believe are essential for students to succeed in the film industry?
I think it always seems to shift a little bit, but I think some of the qualities that are really, really helpful to succeed in the industry is adaptability. I think that rings true now more than ever. Historically, you could somewhat get away with, and it goes back to the holistic approach to film knowledge and filmmaking. You used to be able to get away with specializing in a couple of different things here and there, and then you get away with it. But then over time, even back then when I was job hunting in 2007, 2010, so that time frame, you would like look at job postings that had to do with multimedia and film, and that would require you needs to know how to use a camera, but also how to edit, and also know how to do Photoshop, but also know how to do web design. And then you kind of like, well, that's 5 different fields, and you could go to college for just those 5 different fields. And that is now more true than ever, that you have to be good at filming, at shooting. You have to be good with editing. You have to be fairly good with understanding the tech field too. But I think most of all, next to anything else, you can be a good writer, you can be a good director, you can be pretty good and pretty well versed in all these fields. But I think one of the biggest and best things to know is how to edit well in post-production for film. If straight out of college, you need to find a position that still is film adjacent, post-production, being really, really good in post-production is most likely still today the best way to land yourself a gig straight out of college. Especially if you're really, really good at it. And then that way you most likely, it's almost kind of like a gateway drug. You find your way into the field via the post-production. And then perhaps you kind of like at set post-production, you learn really, really soon that it's something that you really want to do. But it could also happen that through that adjacent field, you still get to make your films, you still direct, you still write, etc., etc. But I think those would be my 2 cents on that topic.
Interesting. Do you think, is there just more jobs in that? Is that why editing?
Post-production jobs, if I was to check on Indeed or any of the other web pages, LinkedIn, there's a lot of post-production stuff still to go around, especially because since the pandemic, the world has learned that you can do a lot of stuff remote. And through that remote approach, if you have the hardware available to you, and like, for example, your laptop, for example, I don't know what model it is, but the MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros, a lot of people have those nowadays, and they're very, very capable of handling fairly heavy editing tasks. So you might be not getting a settled job. You might be going from contract to contract, but at least you're still working in the field and you're making a name for yourself. You're adding things to your portfolio, and then your repertoire becomes bigger and bigger and bigger because you're working on these projects. So I think that's most likely one of those backgrounds why that is still happening.
Interesting. And what would you have to say in this matter, Professor?
Yeah, I mean, like I agree with what Professor Höhne just said. I think it's one of advice that I got early on from like a very established filmmaker was don't be great at one thing, try to be great at three things. So, you know, it's if you want to direct, that's awesome. If you want to write, that's awesome. But like also get good at like sound, get good at, you know, post-production and editing. You know, maybe learn about lighting. And it's like, really what that does is open up, like if your main thing you want to do is direct, knowing those other fields is only going to open the door for you to direct and network, you know, to get closer to directing, right? Through getting hired on other productions. So I think that's super huge. And I think like going back to your original question of like, what are like the qualities that like, I think being adaptable is huge, but I also think being professional, like, showing up on time. No, showing up early. Right? Showing up early to things. A little trick I had when I was like starting off as a PA is I always arrived at least a half hour early. And I always had a notebook and a pen with me. I never wrote anything in that, but it looked like I was taking notes and people really liked that. You know, I always had gaff tape on me. I did not work in like a department at the time that needed gaff tape, but people always need gaff tape, and I became the gaff tape girl. So everyone got to know my name, and I got to network with people. So I think just making yourself available is huge. And like even on like projects that we've worked on together where we've hired crew, we've always hired people who were showing up early, who were always the first to volunteer to do a task, right? And that comes back to professionalism, you know, and like knowing how to conduct yourself and to not cause problems, right? Like at the end of the day, like working in film and television, like, yes, we're working on movies or shows, but it's a workplace, you know, and like you have to keep that in mind at the same time. And I think if you are graduating and you have those, you know, the adaptability and then the professionalism in the forefront, like it's you're going to succeed for sure.
Yeah, and the ability to build trust, kind of like what you're noting, is that being available, being someone who can be relied upon, and that goes a long way with the networking and then getting called back for different jobs. And if I expanded that question to ask, like, what advice would you give like graduating film students on the current job market? I know you talked about, Professor Höhne, with post-production work being very prevalent. Would you have anything to add on that matter?
Let's see. I think that is perhaps more of an advice, not really for the job market to find something, but perhaps to when you are able to land your first gig. I just recently, it was October last year. In October, I came off a production in New York and was able to observe, because of the position I held, I was doing the BTS footage, video coverage, and photos and stuff like that for the production. And I was able to observe kind of like how the PAs and first-timers were conducting themselves on set. And you definitely want to be known when you have your first gig as the person who is honest enough to say when they don't know something. So it's totally fine in an environment where as a PA you might get tasked, hey, you need to handle the walkie-talkies here. You need to set all the frequencies and transmitters and stuff like that. And maybe your resume said that because you try to embellish a little bit. And then you write in that moment that, oh my God, I cannot figure this out. The person who is willing to open their mouths and be honest with the people in charge that they might have screwed something up and they take responsibility for their screw up, those people, believe it or not, will be the ones who are getting called back versus the people who are just kind of like whiffing it. And then after production, they're realizing, oh, half the walkie-talkies weren't working. Who was working on this? Oh, this guy who said they were doing it, but they were too scared to say something because they were like, hey, if I say something, they might be mad that I don't know something that I said I knew. So that is like, I think, a really interesting thing that the people who are taking responsibility for their mistakes and taking responsibility in the moments that it matter, those are the ones that always come back.
The term like fake it till you make it is used a lot in film.
Right.
But I've also heard the contrary, like what you just said, Professor, that honesty can be kind of the best policy in that kind of a situation. And do you think there's like a balance you need to strike between kind of faking it till you make it and then just being honest if you don't know how to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always want to try to be honest, especially with the productions that are happening now. We're no longer in an environment where production companies will just shuffle just millions and millions of dollars into a production. So the moment somebody screws up, if you're the assistant director, if you ever get that position, all you're seeing is the dollar signs going away for people that are making mistakes. So that is something, if somebody sucks the money out of your socket, then you kind of like, that person's never coming back. But if a person's like, hey, I don't know this, I don't know what to do, then at least you're giving somebody else the opportunity to jump in and fix that problem, and then production just goes on as normal.
So just service the production, kind of at all costs, so to speak. And Professor Brandon, do you have anything to add in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely faking it till you make it doesn't often work out. I think, you know, if you're putting things on your resume that you haven't done, go ahead and make that resume, but then highlight the things that like you're not qualified in. Go take some time and learn it, right? Like take a couple weekends. There's so many like resources online now. Like for instance, if you're a really good editor and a place wants you to know how to use Avid, right? We are a premier school here, but you know, you can learn Avid over the course of like 2 weekends, right? And it's like there's free YouTube resources. So, you know, go ahead and make that resume because actually that's a blueprint of who you want to be. And now like go learn it, right? Yeah. So I don't think necessarily like putting those things on your resume is a bad thing, but I think you should definitely learn them. And I think if you don't have the resources or time to learn them, I think that you should be honest on your resume, but then show a real eagerness to learn them to whoever you're applying to. And I think kind of going back to like the question that spawned this this resume talk, what even was it?
Oh, kind of like
I had
advice
such a good
you give
answer
for students in the current like film job market.
I think something that was really eye-opening to me when I first graduated, and I think it's eye-opening to everyone, even outside of film often, is that, you know, Mark Duplass is like a great filmmaker who I love, who has this quote, which is, the cavalry is not coming. Meaning like you have to be the one going out there and trying to make things happen. Jobs are not going to come to you. Like if they do, you're very lucky. And for what I recommend is always cold emailing and cold calling. I can say that the best internships and the best jobs I ever got that were like not only like really wonderful work that I'm proud of, but also like paid well. They did not have, you know, postings saying they were hiring. They did not have, you know, postings saying they were looking for an intern. I found someone in the company. I emailed them, you know, email a resume, a cover letter. If you have a reel, email your reel and see what happens. And like, I say that to a lot of like my advisees and students who are like maybe struggling finding internships or jobs. And they always have much more luck when they like kind of like take the power in their own hands and reach out to places saying, you know, I've looked through your portfolios. I really admire your work. Here's a little about me. Here's some of the work I've done. Here's my resume. I would love to have like a 30-minute chat with you if you ever have the time. And I'm open for work. I'm open for an internship. You know, I think that is really a cheat code that not enough people take advantage of. People are just looking at the job postings, which you should definitely apply to, but that should only be step one. Step two really has to be you making your own spreadsheet of all the places you would ever want to work or intern at, and you reach out to them.
So just like there's a value in hustling, so to speak, and showing ambition.
Absolutely. And not only will that like help you land a spot, but it shows like an eagerness to the people that you're reaching out to. It's like, whoa, we didn't even post anything and you're reaching out and you said you loved our Steak and Shake commercial we made. Like, let's, you know, like take this person on at least like for a shoot or two and see how they work out. And often it works out positively. Yeah.
And it's kind of building those connections like we talked about. And I also like what you mentioned, Professor Brandon, in terms of like how much you could find on YouTube, which is a useful resource nowadays. Of course, nothing really beats like being hands-on like at the courses we have here, but something Liam and I were speaking about the other night, it's crazy how you could just go on YouTube and find kind of like knowledge about the film industry that you would have had to like paid for in the past, and that's a very useful resource to take advantage of. Motion censored lights. And I kind of like ask you a question about the both of you. I like to ask you like what you want your legacy in film academia to be.
That's a tall order.
Oh, geez,
wow.
I don't know if I want a legacy. It sounds kind of scary.
I have to think about that for a minute. If you have something ready.
I don't, but I'm gonna shoot from the hip. I don't know if legacy is the word, but I think like on an individual level with like each student that I've had, like, you know, I think it goes back to like something that we spoke about kind of in the beginning of this, which is like, yes, I want to be known for being able to teach you like the hard skills, the technical skills that you need, also the soft skills of like being a good human being, right? But, you know, I want to instill in people that like you can make movies, you can work in TV, you can, you know, be a successful podcaster, you can be all of these things. All you have to do is put in the work.
Yeah.
Like, actually, like, talent is important, but like you can, if someone is naturally talented, it's possible to outwork them. And think if you have two of those things, you have a lot of talent and you know how to work hard and you have discipline. That's really important. And I've seen a lot of our students who have had the opportunity to work with really thrive, like really honed in on all three of those aspects. And they're living their dreams right now. And they're like building towards the greater goal of what they set out to do when they first even got here, right? So I think my legacy, it grosses me out saying like my legacy. But I hope that like one of the big takeaways or something they remember is just like, you know, aside from the technical skills, is that like with the right amount of work and discipline and dream and ambition, dreams are really important, right? I can accomplish them. And like, hopefully when they think about that, they'll see my face. I don't know. They'll remember that I said that, you know, I guess like that's, yeah, I'm pretty low key.
Yeah.
I don't need a legacy or credit.
Yeah, but like we talked about earlier, like inspiring students to in return inspire you. And Professor Höhne, do you have anything to add?
I mean, yeah, I think legacy is such a loaded term, and it puts a lot of like pressure on someone. But I think legacy, it's a weird way to roll what I'm gonna say into that. But what is really exciting and really gratifying is when even before a student graduates and then after, and then maybe let's say 6-9 months pass, and then suddenly you open your inbox, and in between a cohort of let's say like 50 students that you send out into the world that you had specifically in your class, not just the School of Communications or FTM in general, you get suddenly 3 or 4 emails back. It's like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, I was in your class and I just landed a job here in New York. I just landed a job here. And some of the things that you've told me, like organizational bin structure and Premiere and keeping your files organized in your hard drive, that meant the difference between me getting a job between this person and another person. And you're just like, it got through. Yes. So it's just like those small little things where perhaps students might be abrasive at first in the classroom, where there's kind of like, why do I need to learn that? And then over time, they're kind of like, okay, fine, I do it. And then they get that job, and that one small little nugget of information that you gave them seeps through, and they're like, oh my God, I would have never thought that made the difference between me getting the job or not. So in terms of legacy, that really means a lot to me, is that I can leave an impression on a student to, for lack of a better term, I don't like that term, but like creating a good citizen, so to speak. But to create help a person become a professional, that when they go out into the world, they're kind of like saying, I learned it in the class, and because I learned it in the class, I was able to apply that here, and now I'm living my dream, to what you said.
Yeah.
So I think we're kind of like on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah, so like seeing like the fruits of their labor.
Right.
And also like the little things, 'cause that's what ends up kind of like you mentioning, Professor, helping you to stand out. And to kind of get into kind of less career-related topics, kind of more personal questions, like to ask you, what's something people might not know about you, like any fun facts, if you have any to share?
Any fun facts? Once in a great while, I let that slip through in the classroom, but I am a huge sci-fi nerd, and I I collect and paint miniatures in my very, very spare off time, which is probably a thing. And then I think the other thing is that I used to be a state champion in a fighting game
Really?
in Germany still when I grew up. So that's a little bit of trivia that probably not a lot of people know.
What's the game?
Yeah.
Guilty Gear. I think the nerds will know what that one is.
I gotta say, I do remember one time when you were talking about Warhammer miniatures and painting those, and I was like, all right, this guy's okay.
Fun fact about me. I don't know. Like, so much of my life revolves around film. If it's not film, it's sports, and I think people know that I do sports. I'm musical. I play a variety of instruments. Play saxophone, piano, tuba, guitar, bass guitar, ukulele, but everyone has a ukulele phase in their life, We're not proud of that one. But yeah, I play a lot of instruments. I was in like band, high school band, and middle school band and stuff, and then I continue to play a little bit. But yeah, I guess like that musical whenever the schedule allows me to be.
So 2 creative outlets basically that are different from
Yeah.
film, but sort of on a similar-ish track to playing video games and painting miniatures to playing music. So it kind of all comes twofold, so to speak. But it's good to have something different from what you do that also kind of fuels your passion in that sense.
Absolutely. That's like huge. That makes you a better like filmmaker or like creator in your main field, is to like have these like other outlets. 1000%.
To be able to kind of separate from yours or give some space sometimes, which is always important. And of course, you both love film. I'd like to ask you, what's one thing you love and one thing you strongly dislike, just in general?
In general.
Not about film.
Not about film.
It can be if you want to mention it, but just in general.
Okay.
I just leave it up.
It's such a wide question that it's like genius, because you could get like any answer.
Yeah.
And I think you ask this every time. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna let you do that one first. Yeah.
Okay. I think. Okay, this is weird because like you specifically said like what do I strongly dislike when it's not coming to film. The thing is though that filmmaking, because it is a creative outlet, just like having like your little video game hobbies or painting miniatures hobbies is like a creative outlet. Film, unlike so many other fields in my opinion, music is very closely related to, is just so much of an outlet of who you are as a person. So to me, what happens in film is very closely related to what I also like and dislike, specifically when it comes to people. So again, to me, it means a lot if somebody is willing to just take responsibility for what they do or might not do or whatever the heck else. Like taking responsibility in a lot of sense is like something that I like, and then the vice versa of that I very much dislike. Because again, when you are, I'm sorry I'm bringing this back to film, when you are when you're finally, after all like months and weeks and hours that you spent in pre-production on a project you really care about, and then you bring together a bunch of other creatives who are really, really driven and really, really want to help you on that. And then it just so happens that through that process, they are just like a couple of individuals who are just not willing to take responsibility, not willing to, and they're kind of like hurting that dream that you and so many other people share. That I dislike a lot, because it's kind of like, this is a collaborative effort. I have brought all these people together that I am sharing my vision with, and they're sharing their vision with me, and we're all sharing kind of like the same goal. How is it that now suddenly there may be like a person here or there that doesn't share that, and it drags everything else down? It's like, again, this collaborative thing, and I hopefully I answered the question.
Yeah, so kind of back onto the fake it till you make it kind of sentiment is to work in a team, to always be a team player, and to always service the vision that people have. And Professor Brandon, do you have an answer to the love dislike?
Did you say what you love?
Basically the opposite.
Yeah, you said a lot about what you dislike.
And accountability.
Yes.
Okay. What I love?
Yes. 'Cause,
I I'll do like one thing I love that's not film related and one thing I love that is film related.
Mm.
Number one, I love the ocean.
Okay.
It's my happy place.
Mm.
People say that Connecticut doesn't have an ocean. As someone from Ohio, that counts as an ocean in my book.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's very interesting to pick the ocean, being from Ohio.
I grew up like somewhat on the East Coast because my mom is from like Massachusetts, so like we would be at Cape Cod and stuff. But I love surfing. Like that's one thing that I do every summer here is go to Rhode Island and go surfing, and I just love the ocean. It makes me a better person being around it whenever I'm like angry or like I don't even know why I'm in a bad mood. I go to the ocean, I'm in a better mood. A film thing that I like is I really love DIY productions. Like really, nothing makes me more excited than watching, a feature film that is like, under $100,000 that someone made and like is blowing up from, right? Like, I don't know if you know the film like Skinamarink by Kyle Edward Ball. And like it's a polarizing film, but the guy made it for $15,000 in his house. And like now he's, he made a lot. He got a deal with Shudder. He's making his next movie with A24. And I just love stories like that of like people not waiting for permission to make something. You just make it. And maybe it works out. And even if it doesn't, you still made something.
Yeah.
And that's more than most people with all the resources in the world will do.
Yeah, kind of like Thunder Road a little bit too.
Yeah,
Those
Jim
guys.
Cummings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have a dislike, Professor?
Yeah, I have a dislike. I dislike when there's a new scary movie coming out and all the previews say, this is the scariest movie you'll ever see. Or it says like, at the premiere at Sundance, people ran out screaming or were vomiting in the audience. Because I go and see those movies. It ain't true. And like now like Neon and A24 and all of these other studios, which like if they ever listen to this podcast, I don't mean it. I would love to work with you. But like marketing sometimes really kills movies. And it is my biggest pet peeve. Like I don't watch trailers. I just go see movies. Like Clown in a Cornfield. I'm going to go see that in a few days. And I refuse to watch a trailer. But I'm going to assume there are some clowns in those cornfields, and that's all I need to know. Like, don't let me know anything else. So I hate when marketing, especially for horror, ruins movies or, makes an audience hate a movie that otherwise would be good, but they thought it would be something else because the marketing was incorrect.
Yeah, 'cause do you think it like, oftentimes like, do you think the marketing portrays the films wrong in that sense?
Yes, or it's hard for me to say like, oh, it sets up the expectations to be too high because like that's kind of a marketing job, right? Like technically like the marketing team is doing their job, right? Like people bought tickets and I don't know if they care if you like the movie because they got your money, right? But yeah, I think especially when it comes to horror films, like within the past like 2 years, every single movie that comes out is saying people were running out because they were so scared. And it's like, that doesn't happen. People were going crazy. I forget what film it was, but they were vomiting in the aisles, and it's like, were they in 2024, 2025, were they? And then you go and see the movie and you're just like, what are they doing?
I mean, maybe if they were like inebriated, they were vomiting.
Maybe, like there was something else going on.
It's funny probably because like the reactions that you're getting from movies like that nowadays is probably more like the Minecraft movie. People just throwing
right?
shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And would you want to be in the movie theater where there's the threat of somebody vomiting?
Absolutely
in your
not.
vicinity?
Absolutely not. And it's just, I'm trying to think of like a recent one where they did that and it was like pretty egregious. I think it was The Monkey. They really hyped that up and it was like, that wasn't even really, like I thought the movie was good, but I was like, it wasn't even really scary. It was more like a little campy and like comedic more than anything. And it was just like, why are they doing that? They did that with Long Legs too. I'm bagging on the same director, Osgood Perkins. Great guy. I love his work. Gretel and Hansel is a great movie that nobody talks about. But yeah, I think, especially for horror, it's like really bad with every movie coming out. And I kind of hate that. Don't do that. Just let the audience experience it,
So our goal is to stay away from that. So I'd like to ask you, do you have any like goals moving forwards with your career or personal lives that you want to share?
Me first? Okay. So I mean, not to celebrate myself, but I just received Summer Research Grant Award. Is that what do you call it? How you say it?
Yep.
I am working on a script, which I can work into something bigger, but it requires some research. That's for which I got the funds, and it's going to be a thriller, horror short film. Hopefully, it can be something bigger than that. That kind of like takes place in my neck of the woods with Nordic and Central Germanic folklore and so on. And there's not that much. There's some image material online, but there's not really that much research literature about it. So it actually requires me to travel to Austria and southern Bavaria and do some research on the matter and talk to the locals and actually hopefully partake in some of the local customs and then have that as a basis for a script that I'm writing.
Interesting. So a little Robert Eggers-y kind of in a way?
Yeah, the Norseman kind of like typish thing, which is kind of like stylistically very inspired, or The Witch.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think you mean the Vavitch.
I was gonna say that, Liam.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Stole your joke, sir.
That's very, very exciting. Do you have anything, Professor Brandon, that you want to share?
Yeah, I have, I always I'm kind of like a workaholic when it comes to film. If I go like 24 hours without like doing something that isn't related to a project, I am like agitated.
Yeah.
Like film is like my drug. Like, so I'm working on multiple projects. I have a short that's finishing up very soon. I just got done editing a sci-fi pilot. And then I have 2 features that are in the works, and I'm going to be on sabbatical in the fall. So I'm going to make great progress on those. And always working. You always got to be making something or you go crazy,
Exactly. And that's also great that you both still work so much while also teaching, and that it's able to kind of bring it back to like inspiring students, that like to show that like just being a good example of like being able to continue to stay passionate and continue to keep working and showing them what you can make. And of course, you love making movies. What are some of your favorite movies?
I think it sometimes oscillates back and forth. I mean, one of the films that really struck me lately was The Rules of Jenny Penn. Amazing, beautifully captured. It's like one of the few films I've seen in a long time where it appeared that every single frame, every single moment, every edit, every piece of sound design, every performance of the actors on screen, Jeffrey Rush and everybody involved, just felt meticulously crafted. I felt like there was not a single moment wasted in that film. And on the same vein, and I keep trying to show it in my classes. It can be shown in the editing class for editing prowess. It can be shown in the cinematography class. The cinematography is Silence of the Lambs. And Jonathan Demme, right, is the director. Very underrated. Lots of really great films in his filmography, but also from a technical and cinematography standpoint, Fujimoto. Also a very, very underrated cinematographer, and he also did the cinematography for Science. And it's just the film, again, similar to the film I just mentioned, extremely well crafted. There's almost not a single moment in Silence of the Lambs that is wasted. Everything is there, very well captured, to be made, to be built, to bring the story forward. There's not a single moment that doesn't serve a purpose. And that's probably one of my favorite films.
Awesome. Professor Brandon?
Those were really good picks. And if you have not seen the first film Dennis mentioned, The Rule of Jenny Penn, it's like very under the radar. It's available on Shudder, so it's a horror film. I would call it more of a thriller. It is phenomenal. Like if you're interested in cinematography, watch it, and just overall a director having a true vision, but also from like a sound design standpoint, like that. It's such an intense watch. It's so good. For me, my favorite film is a 1977 Japanese avant-garde horror comedy called House. Yeah, so
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's people often see like the poster around of like an orange cat, and I know that I saw that poster for years being like, what is this? Like house, and it's Japanese, and I finally watched it and it blew my mind. Like when I watched it like 3 times in a row, and then immediately after I watched a documentary about it because I was just like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. So it's a haunted house movie, but it's like a haunted house movie like you've never seen before. And the director, Obayashi, actually co-wrote it with his daughter, who was like 10 years old at the time.
Wow.
So it's really playful. It's really experimental. And it's a really beautiful film, even though it's very strange. Because it's actually like an allegory for Obayashi's guilt that he felt, living in Japan, living near Hiroshima when the bomb dropped. He has a lot of survivor's guilt. And at the end of the day, that's what the film is about. It's about processing your childhood when so many people in your childhood are no longer here. And Obayashi, when he was making this movie, it's weird because he wanted to make the Japanese Jaws, because Jaws had come out and was a big hit. It's nothing like Jaws at all. But he really wanted to make a movie that would help the younger generation understand what happened when the atomic bomb was dropped. And so he worked collaboratively with his like young daughter to make that happen. And it's a really beautiful film. Like you laugh, and you cry, not from laughter. Like it's pretty sad. But at the end of the day, it is like a very funny movie. And it's just got a bunch of like girls having a good time in a haunted house.
Awesome. And of course, like that kind of becomes like a time capsule of that experience and of those feelings, which is kind of like what I try to do with this show. So overall, thank you both for being on here and for spending this time with me. Do you have any motivational words or plugs or anything you'd want to leave the audience with?
Trying to think back from when I was making lawyer commercials. 1-800, call the tiger today if you've been hurt in an accident.
Is that a motivation? Is that what they called it?
Get injured, get mine.
I think if you want to think about it,
I gotta think about it.
I think that, so we live in like a really interesting time when it comes to film and television, where everything's changing, right? People are talking about AI. People are talking, obviously like, the strikes have ended, but there's like still a lot of things happening, right? That has to do with the industry and with, productions going overseas. And now like just this week when we're, filming this, there's, tariffs, for like overseas productions. And it's like, no one understands what that means. I don't understand it. But I think what's really important is to, at the end of the day, just make things that make you fulfilled. Like you could live in fear in this industry very easily. And at moments we all live in fear, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what being an artist is you're kind of taking a risk by making art, right? And I think it's really important, and I wish someone, and people did tell me this when I graduated, I guess I wish I listened more, is to really just, if you do the work, if you put in the time, and if you believe in yourself, you're going to do great. Like you are going to surpass what you think you want to do. I think that's really important. And also, don't wait for permission. Like if I waited for permission on films, like getting the green light from people like, yeah, you should make that movie, I wouldn't have had like a short film at Sundance. I wouldn't have had a short film at South by Southwest. I wouldn't have had, relationships with like Disney and things like that. So you're the person that gives yourself permission, and like you have the autonomy to do what you want with your work. And that's so important because I think a lot of the times, especially young people, are waiting for someone to give them validation. And it's like, that's great. I hope people validate you. But if they don't, you can still make your thing, and it might just like be the best thing you ever made. So, yeah.
I have to ask, what were your short films at Sundance and South by Southwest?
So, it's a Spanish, it took place in Connecticut, but it's like a Spanish language short film. We shot it in one day. Dennis worked on it.
Oh. And,
when we told people about the idea of making it, they were like, they didn't say no, but they were like, well, you could. I don't really know if that's a short film, and but we said, screw it. Like, we think it could be great. Like, we've never seen anything like this before. Let's do it. So we did. And yeah, it worked out. And, not only did we get into these festivals, but it really helped us get our names out there and network with people and, work with people that we now like collaborate with all the time.
I think just to piggyback off of that, just the other week, it was kind of like weird. I hope that I didn't weird out the class, but I asked because I was just trying to get the temperature from people. It's like, do you still dream? And then as students were answering, like, when I sleep? And it's like, sure, but no, do you still have a dream? Because sometimes it feels as if younger filmmakers are discouraged, and they're like, getting to Sundance is impossible. Why should I even try? Getting to South by Southwest is impossible. Why should I even try? To just piggyback off what Professor Brandon said, it's like, keep dreaming and living the dream as much as you can, because if you are expressing yourself creatively and you keep having that dream, don't let anybody discourage you from that. Yes, it's a very volatile world that we live in, most probably more than any other time right now, but you gotta keep like hanging on to that dream. Just keep doing it and keep doing the work. The success will come at one point or another. I think we're all very much captured by everything is very, very fast, because we have social media, we have our cell phones. If you need something, you just order it on Amazon. It shows up at your doorstep 24 hours later. There used to be a time where you ordered something and it didn't show up for a whole week or 2 weeks even. And that is the way your career works, especially in filmmaking. You have to give it time. It needs to kind of like grow and blossom like a flower, for lack of a better term. So, but keep dreaming and just working hard on that dream.
And that kind of passion, that fulfillment will help take you through the bad days too, because obviously there's going to be a lot of those in film, and those dreams just kind of carry you forward. And of course, thank you, professors, for being on here. All of your students, Liam included, always rave about the both of you, and it was so incredible to hear your insights and to hear from just so much experience in doing this, and such a beacon of hope for film students such as Liam and myself that are going to be going into this industry, and that just kind of showing there's a way forward, and to continue to stay motivated and to just follow those dreams. So thank you both so much. And as always, this is Ryan Ziaks with the Zicast, where everyone has a story, signing off. Thank you so much for watching.